In the second century after Christ, Christianity was still young, misunderstood, and dangerous. To be a Christian in the Roman Empire could cost you your reputation, your freedom, even your life. Many believers hid in silence, but one man chose to speak boldly. He was not born into Christianity. He was not raised in the church. He began his life searching for truth, through philosophy, reason, and human wisdom. Yet, after years of searching, he found something he believed philosophy alone could never give him. He found Christ. His name was Justin Martyr, one of the earliest Christian thinkers, defenders, and teachers in church history. He used the mind of a philosopher to defend the faith of Christians before emperors, scholars, and enemies of the church. And in the end, he gave his life for the gospel he refused to deny. This is the story of Justin Martyr. Justin was born around the year 100 AD in a Roman city called Flavia Neapolis. Today, that area is known as Nablus, located in modern-day Palestine. The Roman Empire ruled much of the known world at the time. Roman power stretched across Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East. It was a world filled with military strength, political ambition, and religious confusion. The empire worshipped many gods. Temples stood everywhere. Sacrifices were common. Emperor worship was growing, and philosophy shaped the intellectual life of society. Greek thinkers like Plato, Aristotle, and Socrates were deeply respected. Educated men spent their lives debating truth, morality, and the meaning of existence. Justin grew up in this environment. His family was likely pagan, not Christian or Jewish. Very little is known about his parents, but Justin himself tells us something important about his younger years. He loved philosophy. From an early age, he became obsessed with finding truth. Not wealth, not politics, not pleasure. Truth. And this desire would shape the entire course of his life. As a young man, Justin traveled and studied under different philosophical schools. He first explored Stoicism. The Stoics believed people should master their emotions and live according to reason. They valued discipline and self-control. But Justin became disappointed. He felt the Stoic teachers spoke little about God. So he moved on. Next came Aristotelian philosophy. But according to Justin, the teacher he studied under seemed more interested in money than wisdom. Again, Justin left unsatisfied. Then he studied Pythagorean philosophy, which focused heavily on mathematics, music, and abstract learning. But the training requirements were long and complicated. Justin grew impatient. Finally, he discovered Platonism, the teachings of Plato. And for a time, he loved it. Plato taught about eternal realities beyond the physical world. He spoke about truth, beauty, and the soul. Justin believed he was finally approaching ultimate understanding. He later wrote that Platonic philosophy lifted his mind toward heavenly things. But something was still missing. Despite all the learning, all the debates, and all the intellectual searching, Justin still had no peace. He knew ideas could inspire the mind, but they could not heal the soul. One day, while walking near the sea, likely in the city of Ephesus, Justin met an old man. The identity of this man is unknown, but the conversation they shared changed Justin's life forever. Justin expected another philosophical discussion. Instead, the old man challenged the very foundation of Greek philosophy. He explained that human wisdom alone could never fully know God. Then he spoke about the Hebrew prophets, men who had spoken by divine inspiration long before the Greek philosophers existed. And finally, he spoke about Jesus Christ. The old man explained that Christ was the fulfillment of prophecy, the true revelation of God, the source of truth itself. This deeply affected Justin. For years, he had searched through schools of philosophy, hoping to discover meaning and certainty. Now, for the first time, he encountered a faith that claimed truth was not merely an idea, truth was a person, Jesus Christ. Justin later wrote that a fire was kindled in his soul. Soon after this encounter, he became a Christian. But unlike many converts, Justin did not abandon philosophy entirely. Instead, he reached a remarkable conclusion: Christianity was the true philosophy. After his conversion, Justin dedicated his life to defending and explaining Christianity. He still wore the cloak of a philosopher, the traditional clothing of intellectual teachers. But now, his message centered on Christ. Justin believed Christianity was not irrational or foolish. It was reasonable, logical, true. This was important because many Romans viewed Christians with suspicion and hatred. Christians were accused of atheism because they refused to worship Roman gods. They were falsely accused of immoral secret rituals. Some believed Christians threatened the stability of society. Persecution increased, and many believers were imprisoned or executed. Justin could have stayed silent. Instead, he openly defended Christians before the Roman authorities. He traveled to Rome and eventually opened a school where he taught Christian philosophy. There, he debated pagans, instructed believers, and answered critics of the faith. Justin became one of the earliest Christian apologists. The word apologist does not mean someone who apologizes. It means someone who gives a defense. And Justin spent his life defending Christianity against misunderstanding and attack. One of Justin's most important works was called The First Apology. He wrote it around 155 AD and addressed it directly to the Roman Emperor Antoninus Pius. This was an incredibly bold act. In the document, Justin argued that Christians should not be punished simply for bearing the name Christian. Instead, he insisted they should be judged fairly based on their actual actions. Justin explained Christian beliefs clearly and carefully. He described Christian worship gatherings. He spoke about baptism. He explained the Lord's Supper. And because of his writings, modern historians have valuable insights into how early Christians worshipped in the 2nd century. Justin also challenged pagan religion directly. He argued that the stories of the Roman gods were morally corrupt and spiritually empty. At the same time, he presented Christianity as the fulfillment of humanity's deepest search for truth. One of Justin's most famous ideas was something called the Logos. In Greek philosophy, the Logos referred to divine reason or rational order. Justin connected this idea to Christ. According to the Gospel of John, in the beginning was the Word. The Greek word for word is Logos. Justin taught that Jesus Christ was the eternal Logos, the divine reason through whom all truth exists. He even argued that philosophers like Socrates had glimpses of truth, because Christ, the Logos, had partially revealed truth to humanity before his incarnation. This was revolutionary. Justin was building a bridge between Greek thought and Christian theology, and his influence on Christian intellectual history would become enormous. But Justin's boldness also made him enemies. One of his most famous opponents was a philosopher named Crescens. Crescens strongly opposed Christianity and reportedly hated Justin for exposing flaws in his arguments. Justin publicly criticized false philosophers who pursued fame rather than truth. This increased tensions. At the same time, Roman persecution of Christians continued. Christians refused to worship Roman gods or declare Caesar as divine. To Roman authorities, this appeared rebellious. Refusing emperor worship was often viewed as disloyalty to the empire itself. Many Christians were arrested, some were tortured, others were killed publicly. Still, Justin continued teaching. He knew the danger, but he refused to compromise. Around the year 165 AD, during the reign of Emperor Marcus Aurelius, Justin was arrested along with several other Christians. Historical records preserve parts of his trial. The Roman prefect questioned him directly. Justin was ordered to sacrifice to the Roman gods. If he obeyed, his life would be spared. If he refused, he would die. The judge asked him, "What doctrines do you profess?" Justin answered calmly, "I have tried to learn all doctrines, but I have accepted the true doctrines of the Christians." The prefect demanded that he sacrifice to the gods. Justin refused. Then came one of the most powerful statements of his life. Justin declared, "No right-minded person turns from true belief to false belief." Even under threat of death, he would not deny Christ. The authorities sentenced Justin and his companions to execution. They were scourged, beaten harshly. Then they were led away and beheaded. Justin died as he had lived, boldly, faithfully, completely convinced that Jesus Christ was the truth he had searched for his entire life. And because he died for his faith, history remembers him as Justin Martyr. Justin's death did not silence his message. His writings survived, and over time they became some of the most important documents in early Christian history. Through Justin's work, we understand more about the beliefs and worship practices of 2nd century Christians. He showed that Christianity could stand intellectually against the greatest philosophical systems of the ancient world. He demonstrated that faith and reason were not enemies. And perhaps most importantly, Justin showed extraordinary courage. He searched honestly for truth. He demonstrated that faith and reason were not enemies. And perhaps most importantly, Justin showed extraordinary courage. He searched honestly for truth, and once he believed he had found it in Christ, he refused to abandon it, even when facing death. His life became an example for generations of Christians after him. Not only pastors and martyrs, but thinkers, teachers, writers, and anyone seeking truth with sincerity. Justin Martyr began life as a seeker, a philosopher searching through human wisdom for answers about existence, truth, and God. He explored the greatest ideas of his age, yet none satisfied the deepest questions of his soul. Then came an unexpected conversation by the sea, a conversation that led him to Jesus Christ. From that moment forward, Justin devoted everything, his mind, his voice, and finally his life, to defending the Christian faith. In an age of fear and persecution, he stood before emperors and judges without denying what he believed. And nearly 2,000 years later, his story still speaks. because Justin's journey reminds us that truth is worth searching for and worth standing for, even at the highest cost. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this documentary, remember to like, subscribe, and share. And let us know in the comments which early Christian figure would you like to learn about next. Until next time.